I want to welcome you to another episode of Beyond the Surface Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Wanda J. Evans-Brewer. I'm seated this early a.m. In fact, it is 5:28 Chicago time. And I want to share a story. It's a very personal story, and sometimes you always have to gauge just how transparent you want to be. My spin on that is if my story can help another person, then it's worth sharing and being as transparent as possible. So recently I did a documentary for a company called Brave New Films, and the documentary was centered around the ill treatment of adjunct professors. It has been released on YouTube, on Upworthy, on World Star Hip Hop, and I'm sure some other venues. But nonetheless, as part of that journey, the documentary it's cut to the heart of many people. It's drawn a lot of people toward me. And most of the spirits that have come toward me have been really, really good, stellar people. And some of them have just cheered me on and said, thank you for putting a face to the problem. Some people have shared their own traumas and trials as adjunct professors, as people in the academic world. Other people have sort of tried to offer me suggestions about possible employment, other ways I can use my skill set. And then I've drawn a few who seem to just like me, said, oh, I thought not only are you intelligent, this, that, the other, but you're also a beautiful woman. They're drawn to, my physicality as well as my spirit. And I pride myself on being a pretty disciplined, monogamous, married woman. And I don't practice monogamy because I think it is the one and only true model. I personally practice it because it works for Wanda. It works for me. I am loyal. I am definitely exclusive. I'm a social introvert, so for me, I don't like a lot of different energy, the different energies of exchanging men and having different men touch me, bounce up and down in me. So for me, it doesn't work. And the concept of exploring, I feel, is best suited for a committed relationship, and it allows you to go as high with a man spiritually, mentally, physically, financially, sexually, when you're in a committed relationship. So that's why it works for me. Nonetheless, people who regularly tune into my podcast know I did something about taking the vow of spiritual sobriety about almost like 2 years ago. And it was to support my husband, who is an alcoholic. And at that time, he was very much disciplined and staying true to his sobriety. People who follow the show know that he relapsed and that it brought on a whole bunch of other issues in the relationship that I wasn't necessarily in the mood for, especially going through whatever crisis I'm going through personally, my own individual journey. And so, it has been a strain, and to some degree it's been a battle. It's left its bruises, it's put its dents in there, but nonetheless I've stayed true to this unit. So one particular spirit came to me, a beautiful Ghanaian, who said, look, not only did he want to help me, but he said, look, he asked me had I thought about teaching overseas, gave me some connections. And so we connected, it's a natural thing that two people can walk down the road, literally lock eyes and look at each other and know that there's something there. There's a spark there. Now, how far they take that, who's to say? But the possibility of it is always there. And that's that natural part of us. That's that animalistic part of us. And it doesn't mean that you want to have longevity with the person. It doesn't mean that you want marriage. It can just mean, what young people are now calling hookups. You may just want to experience them and go on about your business. Well, I'm really not good at that because I'm a passionate person. I kind of am either in something or I'm not in something. So nonetheless, we connected and we're dialoguing and talking. And then, the next thing I knew, to my surprise, I felt something for him. And this was mutual. We both felt very drawn to each other. We're talking. And finally, one day I'm in church. And some woman gets up and she sings this song. And I've never really heard her sing before. I can't even tell you the song, but it was about, needing to encourage yourself, and how sometimes you just need that encouragement, and where you have to go with it. And sometimes you got to encourage yourself, and sometimes you got to get it from other people and go to the Lord or whatever. And so the song start affecting me. Now, I'm not a person that hoops and hollers. I don't run. I don't do the call and response thing with the pastor, and I don't have judgment. I'm not passing judgment on those that do. It's just not my thing. So what I am, though, is someone that will lament. I can literally, get that one crocodile tear that sits there and eventually drops, and, I cry, like things affect me, and that tear stream that happened. So it's usually one or two streams. I wipe it and I'm cool. But this woman was singing this song, and I'm literally crying. And so I'm crying to such a degree. Now my daughter has moved next to me. Ma, you okay? Yeah, babe, I'm okay. My husband is rubbing my back, doing a little circular rub on my back, and some little girl comes from the front. She brings me a tissue, so I can dry my face, all it, because I could not cut it off. And I ended up, to make a long story short, on and off crying for about 2 days. Like, I just would on and off cry. And so when I was sitting there crying, they thought I was crying about the song. And what I was crying about was I cried out to the Lord. And I said, Father God, I said, beautiful, wonderful Jehovah. After I fought so hard to be faithful in my marriage, to conduct myself like a lady, to not put myself in positions where inappropriate energy exchange could happen with me and a man, that I've kept my marital sheets pure. I've tried not to sour them, and I find myself in love with this man. And I am so sorry. It is not my intention to be in rebellion with you. It's not my intention to go against what you've called me to do. And I just cried, and I just confessed it, and I cried it. And so, I end up sharing with 3 different women my burden, because that is something that helps us when we're at a crossroad. So I told the one woman, and she said, look, she loved on me. We giggled together. We talked what it was about the man that I loved and I liked, and, what it was that I felt like I wanted to do or not do. And so she said, when I'm in those kind of situations, my prayer is, God, if it is not of your will, reveal it and remove it. Okay. And I thought that was a simple enough prayer. I said, I love that prayer. I'm going to put that prayer to practice. And so I did begin to put the prayer to practice. But still, the whole time, still dialoguing with this person. The next woman, who, has a really intense background. She's a recovering addict. She's a recovering prostitute, but she's an amazing woman. Has been free from that bondage for about 14 years. I shared with her, and we have a great friendship. And so she said to me, she said, you're drawn to his spirit, aren't you? And I said, yeah. And she said, I've done that 3 times in error. And she said, it's good to be drawn to people's spirit, to not judge them by materials and flesh and that whole thing. But you do have to be careful because, spirits do deceive. They do cloak. They do come cloaked. And so she's like, part of what may be drawing you is that you have to be truthful about where you're at. You're hurting. And so you're not even in your true spirit, and you're connecting with this other spirit. And that resonated very deeply with me. So she said, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I will tell you to be careful. And whatever you do, don't consummate. I said, okay, that's not a problem. The third woman says, okay, and she's, for lack of a better way to phrase her, she's a very beautiful older woman. She's not very much older than me, but I'm saying she's a mature woman. And it's sort of like this aging sex kitten quality. You can tell, like, she was just very pretty, very attractive. And so what she said to me was, she said, and she's had similar struggles. She said, like, when she was single, she hated being single, even though she attracted a lot of people, and she wanted to be married. And then she got married, she's picking at this husband. And then, okay, so finally she had to get herself in order. But one thing she said, when God is about to make a huge move in your life, you'll be faced with a test. And part of what happens with that test is he wants to see just how much I can trust you. Can I trust you? What does it take to take you down? And so I thought that, and she didn't tell me either. She didn't say, end it, get out the man's face, what you're doing is horrible, blah, blah, blah. She just told me, she said, sis, I think you're positioned for greatness. You're positioned for some movement. And that's why this has been placed on your plate. Well, to make a long story short, one thing that Scripture teaches us is to seek good counsel. And I pride myself on being open to that. I'll take wisdom, if a dog can bark out wisdom, I'll at least consider it, okay? So I felt like three beautiful women who have complicated spirits, but also feel a good place with the Lord. Like they love the teachings of God. They don't have a problem surrendering over to Him. Gave me what I considered good advice in the Lord. And so I took that back into what I call my bat cave, and I came out with an answer. I said, okay. I wrote the man and I talked to him and I said, listen, everything I've said to you about our chemistry, our connection, the fact that I love you at this juncture is the truth. But here's the other truth. I've concluded that God has not called me to be an adulteress. And even though there's a climate out here that says it's okay to cheat and to keep someone on the side, and, if you're cheating to anesthetize a hurt, then it justifies that I don't want that for myself. So do I want you? Yes. Now, I want you the right way. I want to clean house, if that's what God is calling me to do. I want to be able to walk upright and smile and hold your hand in public, and I want to be able to kiss you and not feel shame. And so, I don't have to tell you that this was not a popular discussion. Like, he was not happy with what he heard. He felt like I flipped the script. He didn't understand where it was coming from. And it did make us lock horns a little bit, I don't want to focus on him. I want to keep this on me because I'm sharing this for a reason. I had to accept that I hurt him. I had to accept that level of pain. And listen, the pain was resonating inside myself as well, because now I'm disappointed. Here, I'm, dealing with, my husband in relapse, and he's not fun in relapse. He's somebody that is a binge drinker. He's somebody that passes out. He blacks out. It's a bunch of stuff that comes with him. Now, when he's not drinking, he's an amazing human being, but you still have to deal with both sides of that spirit. And I'm not in the mood for the alter ego. So I said, wow, I can't be selfish. Like, I wanted to have fun. And in my mind, I had, kissed this man on Neptune, played with him on Mars, made love with him on Pluto, and came back home. And I had to release that. I had to let that go. I said, you know what? That's actually not mine right now. I can't have that. I can't own that. And so, what I want to share with people is that, it's not a bad thing to come back into yourself, to be reminded of who you are. I'm not called to be an adulteress. I'm not called to disturb some other woman's home in an effort to anesthetize my feelings or to fix something that I think, give a temporary fix. I'm called to be a woman leader. I'm called to be a teacher. I'm called to be a mother, a friend. I'm called to be a woman that has a healthy fear of the Lord. And so, and that's whatever God, you wanna call it. I'm not even asking you to see it as Christ. I'm telling you who I'm leaning on. And so I felt triumphant. I said, I survived that, because I wanted him. And I wanted him on every level, and I can be, in my youth, I was a reckless person. If I liked you, the next thing you know, I'm in Puerto Vallarta. So it feels good to know that I've matured past some stuff. And so here I am, positioned to go into 2016, and I'm facing so many opportunities. And one thing that the man said to me, I love, he said, 2016 is pregnant with all of these incredible opportunities for you, and I would like to be a part of helping you blossom in that. And I receive that, and I understand what he means by that. Well, I want to keep understanding, and I want that friendship, but now I know that, I too can fall. I needed that reminder that, Wanda, you've come a long way, and you're a beautiful woman, and you're a strong woman. But if you don't deal with those harbored hurts, those harbored weaknesses, those secret desires, you too will fall. You too will get in trouble. And instead of giving birth to something healthy, you'll give birth to something that corrupts. So, yeah, I wanted to share that with you. I so hope it helps, that it strengthens, that it inspires. And the main thing I also want to ask my listeners to do is to pray for one another. You know, we are in challenging times where we position ourselves in situations where our moral compass gets low and we don't even see it happening and we don't particularly know how to come out of it. I want to say this is a time where we need to be our brother's keeper and love on one another and be open to giving as well as receiving good counsel, good wisdom. All right. You've been listening to Beyond the Surface Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Wanda J. Evans-Brewer. And until we meet again, be safe in God's grace.